Okay.
Tell us about you. Now, just give us a little intro as into.
Understanding people's situations and stuff like that. So, the way I was raised.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 2 of Sheer Madness.
All right, yay!
I am Rachel Sheer, and I'm here with my co-host Jimmy.
How's it going?
How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, you excited?
I'm baby. I had a lot of coffee, so I'm ready to go.
So today we're gonna do something a little different, and I'm gonna get a chance to interview Jimmy.
Oh no.
We thought it would be a great idea leading into the intro of our podcast. So last time we interviewed me, we got to know my background. Today we're going to hear all about Jimmy. So Jimmy,
Oh god.
tell us about you. Just give us a little intro as into what you do and how old are you?
Well, I'm Jimmy. I'm 27, about to be 28. I work at the fire department full time in Frisco, Texas. Firefighter and paramedic, so I do both. A lot of people think when they hear firefighter, they just think you fight fires. That is not true. We do both. I also work here in Break Free Academy, where we're at right now, for Ryan Stewman as part of his sales team, which I love. It's an awesome way to continue to connect with people. And then also, I part own a CrossFit gym or CrossFit affiliate in Plano, Texas. Omega CrossFit. Shout out, what's up, squad? And then also personal training. I do some other jazz on the side. So not a humble brag, but I'm kind of a trick of all trades. I do a lot of things.
Yeah, it sounds like it. How did you get involved with so many different things? You're obviously a very busy guy, and being a paramedic and a firefighter, I know that takes up a lot of your time. We were talking recently how you work 24-hour shifts.
Yep.
And I was like, there's no way I could do that. Sleep is something very important to me. But how did you get involved with all of these different things? I want to hear about that.
Oh, man. So I guess I'll start with the fire department. So I played football at the University of Arkansas for 2 years. Ran into some issues. I won't talk about that. Nothing bad. Nothing bad. Just a different path. Finished out my bachelor's degree in kinesiology from Stephen F. Austin State. If you don't know where that is, that's a small little town in East Texas. And then my senior year of school, I was sitting there. I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. I still was on track to get a kines degree. I didn't know exactly what life had to unfold for me at the time, but I actually got connected with the person in my biology class at the time, and she was going into fire academy, and she's like, I think I'm going to do fire academy. And I was like, what's fire academy about? I'm kind of interested to hear what that's about, and she told me a little bit about it, ways to get connected, and I thought, hey, let's give it a try, and one thing led to another, so it was kind of like not a spur of the moment type thing. I always wanted to be involved in service. For me personally, I never wanted to go to college. I thought it was a waste of my time. I wanted to go be a Navy SEAL. I wanted to get involved in some form of service.
And obviously something very active as well too. Navy SEALs, firefighter. You're not sitting on your butt all day.
Exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head right there. Like, I wanted to do something worthwhile, and I didn't think college was that at the time, but my parents remedied to me the importance and value of a degree, regardless of what people think of that or not. You always have something to fall back on, and it teaches you the value of education and the importance of education. And I finished out my degree, went through fire academy, got certified, spent years in the testing process, ended up at the fire department, and I loved it. But also am a go-getter. I'm somebody who likes to stay active, like you said, stay active, whether it be at the gym or anything else. But more importantly, I wanted more people to be able to help and serve. Like, that for me is the fuel to my fire, and makes me happy. So whatever I do in life, I want to be able to help people on a larger scale. So
Yeah,
that's why.
so serving and giving back to others.
Yeah.
And obviously, as a paramedic, firefighter, you're doing a lot of that. I'm sure you have a lot of very interesting stories that go hand in hand with that as well, too.
Yeah, I do.
I'd love to hear some of those.
What kind of stories do you want to know?
What is, the craziest thing you have witnessed, or being a paramedic or a firefighter?
Honestly, that's a really good question. I have to be kind of careful with that question too, because there's HIPAA laws and violations, a lot of litigation, people willing to sue you for anything nowadays.
Of course, we don't need to give out names.
Yeah, no names. Hardest thing for me, I'll be honest, it's probably the first time I saw a dead person was probably the toughest thing for me, because you see it in a movie, you hear about people talking about it, and you're like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem like a big deal. And then when you see it in real life, it kind of hits you. You're like, wow, holy crap, like this is the real thing. And that for me was probably my first hardest experience, or first thing that I saw. But I'll say with any of those hard experiences, I've had a lot worse. I won't go into detail because I've had some pretty gruesome events and things that I've seen. But if anything, it desensitized me to painful events. Death and dying is no longer anything that affects me.
In what way?
Just so it's more emotional, because when people see dead people, you'd be surprised at the reactions you get. I've ran multiple calls, multiple CPRs where there's families there on scene that are crying.
Yeah.
They're like, save my baby, or save my mom, or save my dad, and there's lots of other people there, and you have to take a step back, and you have to just relax. And in that time when your heart rate's jacked up, you got a lot of people really concerned, and you got people yelling and screaming at you. It's hard to kind of keep your composure. But when you see death and it eventually happens, if you can't bring somebody back, which you can't all the time, it's hard at first. But then, like I said, over time, when you see it so much and so often, like I do, and we do at our department and other fire departments, it just is another. It's kind of like one of those things you brush off. I know it sounds bad, but unless you have really worked there and been a part of that, you really wouldn't understand.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, I've heard stories, I should say, as who work in funeral homes or around death, people who work in ER, and how that affects them outside of their job too. But you're obviously a very happy, very energetic person. I've got to spend a lot of time with you, and you definitely don't bring that with you. How would you say you've been able to balance the two, of being around death so much and not really allowing that to affect the rest of your life?
Hitting some good questions already. Good job. All right. I like it.
By the way, this is my first time doing an interview.
She's good at it, right? She's pretty.
I'm usually the one being interviewed, so.
No, she's pretty. I applaud you. That's awesome. So one thing I will say is, I always try to bring a positive aspect to people's life. And, at the fire department, I'll just say in general, the culture, it's different mentality. It's a brotherhood. And unless you've kind of experienced a brotherhood, brothers are tough on each other. That's just the nature of the job. It's not always the most positive environment in the world, just because it's that, type of environment. Mm-hmm. But just more so in the workplace too. You go into people's homes, whether it be on a fire call or an EMS call, which is the bulk of our calls nowadays, which most people don't quite understand that. And you get to really see people's lives, and you get to see that a lot of people are struggling, a lot of people need help, and a lot of people are just begging for that person that can really do something for them, to be able to uplift them and to be able to help them in their time of need. And whether it be at the fire department, whether it be outside, I try to take that, not necessarily negative environment, but I try to channel it into positivity. Mm-hmm. So when I go into somebody's house on an EMS call, I want to make them smile. I want to make them feel at home, like that, I'm one of their family, or I'm a relative of theirs. If I'm at the gym, if I'm here in the office, I'm always going to make sure that I try to provide value of some sort to somebody's life, converse with them, talk with them, chat with them, just try to make them smile, because, that's for me, like I said a little bit earlier, that's my fuel. And, any type of positivity that I can bring in I don't want to say negative society we live in, but people need positive reinforcement. People need to feel loved and appreciated. People need people to lift them up and encourage them, and that's the value I try to bring to people.
That's amazing to have that type of a mindset. And from just personal experience and working with other people who've gone through trauma maybe in their life, or who have gone through near-death experiences, I feel like it gives them almost like a sense of gratitude for what they have. So with you being so close to death and seeing so much that a lot of people probably haven't seen, would you say that's kind of just put things into perspective and allowed you to be more grateful and live more in the moment? Absolutely.
If anything, it makes you more appreciative of what you have.
Yeah.
Because you get to see a lot of people who are not as fortunate going into people's homes. I have the key to the city. That's what I call it. Because anytime anybody calls me, they're willing to welcome me in their front door with open arms. And you see a lot of lifestyle, you see the way people live, you see destructive homes, you see positive homes, you see a vast majority of things. Mm-hmm. But I'm very fortunate for what I have. I'm very thankful for the job that I have, and the jobs that I have provide me a position of power to be able to leverage that power to make a difference. So that's for me is, really important.
That's awesome. And then, how many fires do you actually fight? So I have to ask that because immediately, like when you said you're a firefighter, I kind of go back to when I was a kid, and I think of you're sliding down this pole, and then, the sirens are going off. You're getting in that big red fire truck, and you're driving over to the fires. I know it's a lot more than that, of course, but do you fight actual fires as well too? How often do you come about those?
This is a really good question actually too. So I'm going to answer that question to start and say that it's very pertinent based upon the city that you're working for.
Okay.
So, you see a lot of these guys in Chicago, Chicago Fire or New York Fire, guys that run a lot of different fire calls, like actual legitimate fire calls. It's a different culture. And that's what they're based around is strictly fire. Well, when you come to a little bit down south to Frisco, Texas, where there's a lot of money, there's a lot of, building codes are very strict. There's a lot that goes into as far as like fire quality and control is concerned. You don't see a whole lot of fires. I'd say medical is probably about 90% of our calls. Very rarely do you see any fires. They do happen. I say fortunate, but we signed up to be firemen, right? At least that's what we signed up. That's why most of us signed up to be a firefighter. But nowadays, it's mostly medical. Most people don't really understand that. They're like, oh, I just assume you're a firefighter. You rescue cats from trees. You put water in the fire.
That was my next question. How many cats have you rescued from trees?
No, we don't do that. I guess we can do that sometimes, but. Everybody. What I want to tell you watching this, and if you don't know already, to kind of educate you. Most of at least in the state of Texas, is you have to be a baseline. You have to be a firefighter and EMT at a baseline. You have to have those credentials. So everybody, whether it be a fire engine, fire truck, or an ambulance, everybody's medically trained. Now, not everybody's a paramedic, but you will get mostly paramedics on every apparatus that you get. So no matter what or who comes to your residence or whatever the call is, you're going to have somebody who is fire and medically trained. So you get the best of both worlds.
That's truly incredible, and especially to have the mindset to just want to give back to others and be in a line of service. Was there anything, from your childhood or how you grew up that kind of shaped that mindset for you on wanting to just give back?
My mom and
Your
my
mom?
dad.
Okay.
I think that really I never really believed that kind of what everybody told you when I was younger, when a lot of people talk to me, they're like, you really learn a lot and you really shape yourself when you're younger.
Oh,
you
for
learn
sure.
morals, values based upon the household that you were raised in, which it couldn't be more true now looking back at it.
Yeah, it's when your brain's developing, so it shapes that.
Exactly. And for me, my parents always instilled in me the value of service, and that really the greatest wealth that you get in life is seeing the satisfaction and the benefit that you can bring other people. So for me to be able to provide that value in people's lives and to be able to see them smile, that's what, like I said, that's my fuel. That makes me happy.
I remember you saying that when we first met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like money's great. Can it buy you some nice things? Absolutely. But it's nowhere near as valuable as the connections and the service you can provide somebody. And they said, especially for women in particular, I grew up with sisters. I won't talk about any of the things we were referring to earlier. Nothing bad, but definitely growing up with sisters too.
Yeah.
It gives you more appreciation for what's really inside of somebody and what, not just holistically and aesthetically, it really makes you appreciate people's hearts. It really makes you want to get to know them on a personal level. And, that's where you extract your meaning and value from relationships and friendships. And that's something that's always been instilled in me since I was young.
Yeah. And you're the oldest, correct?
Yes,
you have
unfortunately.
2 younger sisters?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you've obviously taken more of like that leadership, older brother role as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks at times, but somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah. Have you enjoyed being the oldest and being the brother with only sisters?
I wish there was whiskey in here to answer that question. It's a curse and a blessing because it's a blessing because I'll start with the good first. It's a blessing because anybody that's a part of your inner circle or somebody that you care about, you'd be surprised at the amount of love and compassion that you have for them, regardless of the situations that come up. I'm experiencing it now with dogs, too. I never thought I could love 2 dogs as much as I do, but it's the same thing with my sisters. We all have those relationships where, we maybe don't give each other a hug or a kiss at times, but, regardless of what happens, I love them to death. And it's that love that's always been instilled with me. That's how close our family's been, but you know, they've all had unique experiences growing up too, and we've all had hard times, we've had good times, but they've shaped me into who I am because I've gotten to learn a lot about a female. I've gotten to learn
A lot about women, huh?
Exactly, and
You
that,
kind of got that inside look, you feel like?
yeah, and that's, I mean, it's very undervalued because, you know, when you're speaking with guys, it's different than when you're speaking
Oh,
with
of course.
girls. It's a completely different animal. And not to say I'm an expert, obviously I'm not, I'm still single, right? So, it's just a matter, you know, you have to be able to talk to people and relate to people and, you know, being a part of that and hearing their experiences and, you know, kind of being a part of their walk through life, it makes you appreciate what it's like to be a female and how you can see things a little bit differently. And then, you know, I love them to death. But the bad side of it, the con is I'm also a guy, we'll just leave it at that. Guys think a little bit differently at times. So, you know, kind of having that thought in your mind as well sometimes from time to time, you're just like, oh my God. And my sisters are fairly attractive. You know, I'll say that, I'll admit that. Even though that might be weird, but, you know, there's a lot of my friends used to be interested in my sisters, and, you know, a lot of guys are attracted to them, so it's just like, at this point in my life, I'm just like, all right, whatever. As long as it's a good guy, somebody that can make you happy. But
Yeah.
back then, I used to get pretty defensive. But now I'm just like, you know what's best for you.
Yeah. So kind of just, you have that inside look as to how guys think, but
Yeah.
and then being an older brother, you're wanting to more take on that protective role.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's not just some random girl, it's your sisters and they're people that you care about. So it sounds like family is very, very important to you and that's shaped you a lot throughout your life.
Yeah, no, it has.
That's truly incredible. So you're a man of many different things. So being a firefighter or paramedic, though, isn't all you do. You were talking a little bit about how you're also involved with Break Free Academy, and you also own your own CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of that.
Sure.
So,
What do you want to know?
well, with CrossFit, I know you're going to take me through a workout here soon, right?
No.
No?
No.
So with CrossFit, there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions around CrossFit. How would you explain it for our viewers, like the difference between CrossFit and then just general weightlifting? So myself, I just tend to do bodybuilding, weightlifting, focused on muscle hypertrophy.
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 There you go.
All right.
Group podcast.
I'm butchering that. Okay, so what is the difference then between CrossFit and then that?
Oh, man. I have to keep this filtered because this is a public platform. I'd be a lot more passionate about my answer, but we'll keep it reserved. So CrossFit, what it is, just the definition basis, constantly very high intensity functional movement. So take that for what you will, but what it is, to kind of dumb it down a little bit for everybody out there, is CrossFit really encompasses every aspect of fitness. And it's not narrow-minded. It's not, I'm going to work back and buys today. It's not, I'm going to work quads and calves. It's not, I'm going to work whatever the heck it is. It's, a lot of people are so used to and accustomed to a certain routine
I am.
on a week, and they don't change it. So, you know, if somebody's never worked out before, if they do the same thing each day, each week, and they repeat themselves, because of that hypertrophy you referred to, you're going to see gradual results. But eventually what you're going to do is you're going to plateau. You're going to hit a point where you don't reach any other peak of fitness. And that's really where CrossFit is different, and where CrossFit is really a better brand in my mind, is that constantly very part of the definition is it's what keeps your body guessing. And when your body is guessing, it can never adapt, and when it can't adapt, it can continue to grow. So that's where I would recommend CrossFit to anybody else. And especially speaking, it's functional, so it focuses on other aspects of fitness like mobility and flexibility, where a lot of people are lacking. And when other people talk injury, which a lot of people bash CrossFit for injury, is their poor movement pattern, their poor flexibility or mobility is actually what's causing them to get hurt. It's because that lack of range of motion, if you will, when they try CrossFit or they attempt to do CrossFit at home in a place that's not coached or overlooked by a trained professional, that's where they experience those issues.
I think that's all areas when it comes to weightlifting, whether it be CrossFit, bodybuilding, people just trying to lift as much weight as they can, not really paying attention to their form, leading to injuries, no matter what it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, so that's where we really pride ourselves. I say we, that's where we pride ourselves in CrossFit, because it's always led by a coach. It's always it's somebody who's trained, somebody that has and actual certification. How many times do you hear personal trainers, oh, I got a weekend course, I'm a personal trainer now type thing, or hey, I just did a quick stop shop week course and I'm ready to get in front of a bunch of people and train you how to do this and that. It requires a lot of training. It requires a lot of coaching hours. It requires, especially for our gym, we hold ourselves to a high standard of coaching. And that's what we really pride ourselves on. We want the right people in the right place to make sure you're doing things safely and efficiently.
Okay, awesome. And why I think this is such a cool dynamic, with our whole podcast is I have that whole nutrition background, and then you have more of that fitness background as well too. Which
you got some fitness in there too.
I have some fitness, yes, a little bit in there.
Like
I said, I do mainly the bodybuilding typical, and I've honestly probably reached like my point too, where I'm no longer growing, no longer progressing, which is why I was saying I wanted to come out and try CrossFit. I've never done it in my life before. I know I'm gonna look awful,
but it's fun. It's different.
So, I work out more for aesthetics.
Yeah.
I mean, complete honesty. I work out, I try to build my booty, try to do all
too.
the abs. I'm not really working out, like, in what terms CrossFit is more so.
Yeah.
So, it would be something completely different. And I feel like we get just stuck in these patterns of doing the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely.
So, like, my leg day routines, my upper body routines, they're the same things that I've done for years, which has got me to where I am today, which is pretty far.
Yeah,
but I'm
absolutely.
no longer really progressing. So do you think it's important to continuously be mixing up what you're doing in terms of your fitness routine?
Absolutely. Because regardless of whether it's CrossFit, whether it's bodybuilding, what's nutrition, whether it's life in general, the more you do things the same and you don't see results, or you keep doing the same things and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. So some people say if you do CrossFit, you're insane. Well, yes, to some degree, you're mentally a little whacked out of place, but you have to change your pattern a little bit. You have to change your dynamic, because otherwise you're just doing it to do it, and you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And more than anything, like I said, CrossFit, you get that holistic view, you get that entire realm of fitness, the all-encompassing realm of fitness that we talked about. And that, to me, regardless of what you think, that's my opinion, and I think it can really benefit you too if you're watching.
I think there's just extremes on all sides. There's
Yeah.
extremes when it comes to CrossFit. There's extremes when it comes to bodybuilding, where people just take it to that level of obsessiveness, compulsive, and it reaches an unhealthy place. And that's everything in life. Too much of even a good thing can become a bad thing as well too.
I'm glad you said that. That's very true.
Yeah. So what got you into CrossFit? I know you've always enjoyed being active, of course, but what got you involved in that?
We talked about a little bit. I played football at Arkansas for 2 years, and then I went to Stephen F. Austin, played for a couple months, and then said, "Hey, I'm done." But I always had that competitive spirit.
Yeah.
I'm an athlete at heart. That's to me, that's something that never dies. That's something that's always ingrained in you if you're an athlete. And if you're watching this and listening to this, you understand that completely.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you understand.
So, yeah.
And you hate losing. And for me, I started out after college, just working out at LA Fitness and just shooting the blank and with my friends and having fun doing normal stuff. But it never challenged me. It's something that was fun, but I was like, man, I feel like I'm missing out. I want some more. So I got into CrossFit. I saw some stuff on YouTube. Thought it looked cool, so I just I was like, let's give it a try, and then here we are now.
So what advice would you give to someone listening in who's wanting to try out CrossFit? For someone like myself, I was saying I wanted to try out CrossFit, and I was saying I want to come up into the gym, let's get me in the class, and you were like, hold on a minute, like I don't know if we should just jump right into it. So what advice would you give someone who's wanting to get into something like that?
Yeah, if you're on the fence, or even if you're somebody out there who's a skeptic and just a cynical human being, I apologize for you first off, but don't knock it until you try it. What I'll say is that if you're somebody who's been thinking about it for a while, just do it. I know there's a lot of CrossFit affiliates, mine included, if you're ever here in the Plano area. We don't charge you for a good week of classes. We want you to come out, we want you to experience our culture, our family, which we call it, which it really is. And we want you to come basically see if you can take on the beast, because that's really what it is. It's a different animal of training.
And it's a team approach, right?
Exactly. It's all class-based. It's not, granted, you do individual workouts at times, but you always work out in a group setting, which is very beneficial for people, because it's tough to train on your own. You understand that at times. When you just plug in your headphones and do your own thing, sometimes you are your own motivator, and sometimes a lot of people are not very well motivated. They don't have it between the ears to push themselves or challenge themselves. But if they get into a group setting, they see other people pushing, they're thinking like, wow, I'm lazy, I suck, I need to push harder, I need to try to catch them, type thing. So that's where that's really beneficial is that team or group setting like you referred to. But
having that accountability,
it's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge in anything. But two, I mean, lastly on that note is, it's, I'm trying to think is, I mean, I had it right on the tip of my tongue, I just can't spit it out now. But just try it. That's the best thing I can say.
Just give it a try. I think people are too often they judge something or slap a label on it before they've actually tried it.
Exactly.
They're like knocking CrossFit or yoga, whatever it may be. They just don't actually try it themselves. And there's many things that I was skeptical of in my life, and I've tried it and I ended up loving it.
And actually, so I'm glad you said that because that actually reminded me of what I was going to say lastly. I couldn't spit it out. I had a brain fart. But it's for a lot of people, when things get uncomfortable at any point in time in fitness, we quit. We stop. In CrossFit, you're going to hit that point a lot of times. There's going to be a lot of workouts that humble you. You're going to be like, your hands are going to be on your knees. You're going to be, God, I need to stop. I need to grab some water. It's a butt kicker. But that for me is where CrossFit is the best regimen out there because it humbles us. And when we do things that are comfortable, we're never challenging ourselves. And when we never challenge ourselves, we never experience that pain and that uncomfortability we need to grow. And we get caught in our ways. We think we're invincible. We think we're this badass figure when really we come in to do a CrossFit workout, we get our ass kicked. And then we're like, wow, I'm not as in shape or I'm not as probably as good as I thought I was. But that, for a lot of people, at least for me, was a motivator to say, hey, like, this is cool. Like, this brings me back down to earth. It gives me a good workout. It allows me to be the best version of myself.
So in a lot of ways, CrossFit, fitness, I should just say in general, is more like a life lesson.
Absolutely.
As well, too. Yeah.
And you understand that, too.
Yeah. It gets you out of that comfort zone. It makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do so you can grow. I think everybody should be involved in fitness in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the mental benefits that you get from it, and I know me and you talk about this all the time, far, far surpasses any type of physical benefit. Yes, it's nice to get six-pack abs. Yes, it's nice to look good in your bikini. That is just like a secondary benefit you get from it. It's primarily the mental benefits and the confidence you develop in yourself along the way that is going to be the most substantial.
Absolutely. Or if you have one-pack abs like me.
Hey, we're going to get you some six-pack. Jimmy's going to help me with CrossFit, and I'm going to help you with nutrition. It's going to be a win-win.
I never agreed to that. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So, Jimmy, as a man of many different things, what is something you wish you would have known when you were starting out?
Starting out where?
Starting out with, growing your business, owning your own gym, whether maybe it be with being a paramedic, CrossFit. That's a tough one.
That kind of.
I told you I was going to stump you.
Normally I don't get stumped. I'll admit that made me think for a second, but it didn't stump me that good. I'll start with, I think there's so much, I do a lot of things, and I think I have a lot of valuable lessons that I think I can provide everybody watching this and listening to this. But I think the biggest thing I want to touch on is more along the business side, or the, not maybe sales side if you want to toss it in there too, is I want to talk to you about what for me I wish I would have known when I started is just the value of connection and the value of service. And I'll talk about connection first and then I'll talk about service after. When you're in business, when you're in sales, and I can speak to this because I'm a business owner myself, is you get to a certain point in your career where you just get stagnant. And you need something to take you over that hump. You need something to help you take that next step forward in your life and grow your business. And that's connection. And so often we're wondering like, man, I suck at lead generation, or hey, I can't close deals, or hey, I can't do this, I can't do that. But the thing is where a lot of people are missing is that you're missing that connection with people that can provide you that opportunity to take that next step in your life. And that's something working here at Break Free Academy I've really found value in, is that one simple handshake, one person that you meet, one conversation that you have can change your life forever. And we talked about that too.
Me and you, meeting.
Exactly.
Starting this podcast.
We met, I don't know if any of y'all know watching this, we met, so Ryan actually had her on a speaking event. I'd reached out to her randomly, we had connected, and here we are today doing this. This is the power right here of connection. You're looking at it, you're seeing it, you're listening to it, and this is going to be a platform where we give people that kind of opportunity to be able to help you grow in your life. So that's the power of connection. one handshake that we had, one conversation that we had turned into this. And that can be the same for you in your life, in your business. So the thing is, I talked about it yesterday, I made a post on that note, is the difference between investment and then the service side is, you know, I will admit, I've been guilty of this myself. Like talking about the temporary satisfaction in relation to connection, you know, we think about me. What do I need to do? What do I need to accomplish? How do I get a sale? But where we become selfish is actually where we start to really affect ourselves and our true potential and our growth. And when you serve people, when you care about more than just the sale, when you care about more than just the number, and you actually get to know them on a personal level, you build a connection, you build a relationship with them, you're going to build their trust. And then with that trust, you're going to be able to generate more sales. But more importantly, you're going to have that consistent connection and an opportunity to be able to meet those types of people and, you know, to grow your presence, and more importantly, just to build a positive figure that people can look to for anything that they need.
Yeah, so more focused on adding value back to others. And I know this is something we talk about often in sales. If you're focused on just the money in making sales, yes, you may make X amount of money, but you're only going to get thus far.
Absolutely.
But if you're focused on how much value can I bring this person, that's just going to, you know, ramp up everything in terms of sales itself. Yeah.
And we get selfish too. You know, like I said, we want instant gratification, but you know, it may not be today, tomorrow, weeks or months from now, but if you can grasp that concept, you're going to be lethal. It's not always going to be the best time in sales and life and anything. You have to be respectful of people's time, and then you do that, you'd be surprised at what opportunities you're going to have later down the road. Yeah,
for sure. So we've learned a little bit about your business and some of the things that you've done. I want to get a little bit personal now, okay? Okay, so what is something you feel like people tend to misunderstand about you?
Ooh. I think a lot of people think that I'm very cocky and I'm very arrogant, but I think a lot of people understand it, or they get that confused with confidence.
Yeah.
And you have to why I am the way that I am is because of the experiences that I've had in life, but more importantly, the careers that I work. You know, when people look at me, when I go into their house at the fire department, they're looking at me for answers. They're looking at me to be confident. They're looking at me to know my shit, pardon my French. When I come here into sales on my days off and work for Ryan, when I have conversations with people, they expect me to know my shit. They expect me to know the product. They expect me to fix their problem. And if I'm somebody sitting in the background like,
just feeling like unsure of yourself.
Yeah, you know, they're not gonna listen to you.
Yeah.
Whether it be in sales and more importantly in the medical field, if you don't act like you know what you're doing, if you don't gain command, if you don't capture attention, you lose credibility.
Yeah, and especially if you're going into someone's house as a medical professional, if you kind of seem unsure of what you're doing, you know, that's not really good either. So that confidence is really, really important in your field.
Absolutely.
From medical, especially in fitness too. I feel like fitness kind of gives you a lot of that confidence, what we were talking about earlier as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In life in general, you just got, I mean, I may not know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to convince you that I know what I'm talking about because that's the type of persona that I want to give off.
Yeah. So what is the best compliment you've ever received?
Best compliment? I'm thinking of all the bashing comments.
Comments.
Those came to mind first. The best compliment. The best compliment I ever got was that you're a really good listener.
Really good listener.
And I say that because we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and we don't utilize that enough in life, in sales, or in anything. You know, so often we want to have a voice, we want to be heard, we want to talk, but we're not willing to listen to what somebody else is saying at that time.
Yeah.
So, you know, for somebody to say that to me, that means a lot because I'm genuinely invested in what people have to say. Like, I'm invested in you because you're on my podcast, but you have an awesome story. I'm invested in Courtney and Allie and other people who I've connected with. Like, friendships are powerful, but you can't have those meaningful connections if you don't listen.
Yeah. I feel like when you're talking with someone, most people, they're not really listening. They're just thinking of what they can say next, and they're waiting for you to be done talking so they can make their point. And that's how it typically goes. So,
Yeah.
and I can agree, you are a great listener. I mean, the first time I met you, you wouldn't even let me ask any questions. Just let you know, we went out for coffee, and it was just question, and I would try to ask a question back, and he was like, it's not about me, it's about you.
Yeah.
And he literally wouldn't let me ask any question, which is partially why I was so excited about today's podcast, because I was actually going to get an opportunity to ask you some questions.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, you are a great listener, so
I appreciate
that
that.
is a good compliment. I like that.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so a couple other questions.
No worries. Go for it.
What would you pick for your last meal?
I'm a fat kid at heart, so I got a lot of good last bad meals.
Cece's Pizza?
Cece's is up there. I'd probably say buffalo wings.
Buffalo wings?
Yeah.
What, those Buffalo Wild Wings?
Anything.
Just any type of wings?
Pluckers, B-dubs.
Alright, how do you like them? Do you like just the normal buffalo wings, or do
Yeah.
you like the dry rub?
Just a regular.
Just the straight up buffalo wings.
none of-
Spicy?
Yeah. None of that fancy stuff.
Okay, so buffalo wings, last meal.
Yep.
Alright. Alright, so what is something you're terrible at? So we know what you're really good at now. What is something you're just god awful at? That you said, don't ever make me do it, I'm awful at it.
That's a really good question.
Nothing. I'm awesome at everything.
I'm good at everything.
I'm just confident.
I'm just confident. You should see it. Y'all should see their reactions in the back. That's priceless. Dang. Something I'm bad at.
Guys, you can't even think of anything.
No, Can we come back to that? 'Cause
We can come back.
Yeah, we need to come back to that.
Okay. Okay, we'll come back to something that you're terrible at.
Okay.
I could do a list of things that I'm terrible at, but we're not going to go there today
Okay,
because this
all
is
right.
about you.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked a lot about success, and I feel like success is something that is defined by the individual. So everyone has their own definition of success. A lot of people relate it to money. A lot of people relate it to, maybe it be a relationship that they have. Success is something that is very individually defined.
Yeah.
How would you define success, or what is success to you?
That's a really good question. I think the beauty of that question is that success is different in everybody's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has value to bring to the world. And success for me is going to be different than success for you.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Courtney, same with Allie, same with anybody. And that's the beauty of it. But success in greater scheme of things should be what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that you do, whatever your pursuits are, professional or personal. And if you can wake up every day, if you can smile, if you can look yourself in the mirror and you can say, damn it, I love my life. The people in my life, I love what I do. It's something I'm passionate about. That to me is success. Because if you're going to your job and you're money driven, you're money hungry, you're power hungry, but you're going home and God, I hate my wife, I hate my kids, my life just sucks. I apologize if that's you, but that to me is not success, regardless if monetarily you're in a better place than most people. There's something to be said for people that genuinely love what they do and wake up to what they do and they're happy about the people in their life. That's where the value is.
I think there's a lot of people who may have the image of success, especially on social media today, driving fancy cars. Maybe it looks like they have a lot of money, going on trips, but in reality, a lot of these people are depressed and they're very unhappy. So success isn't always money. Some of the wealthiest people in the world have committed suicide, and that's very, very common nowadays too. How people are attributing or trying to live up to a certain standard,
Yep.
which essentially we have created as a society, and because they feel like they can't attain that, they're depressed.
Yes, money doesn't solve problems.
Yeah. So I think success, it's very individualized, and I like that you said that it's whatever is going to bring you the most happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always think it comes back to your purpose as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So success is always going to be tied with your purpose. And I personally believe that your purpose is going to always go back to other people.
Yeah.
So your purpose is always going to be in the efforts to help other people in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
All right, Jimmy, so you ready to come back to your question on what you're god awful at?
put it off for a reason. I can't think of anything. Y'all want to help me out here? I'm kidding. What am I bad at? I will say that I care too much. That's my best answer for you. And I'm bad at that in a sense where I can be too much at times for some people because I just genuinely want to help people that bad. Where, you know, sometimes like you just need to ease off the gas a little bit. You need to be a little bit more understanding of people's situations and kind of timing and things like that. But the way I was raised, like we talked about earlier, and just the person I am, I want to pour into somebody and give them everything.
Kind of overextending yourself a bit.
Yeah, and you know, in some of that, I will say, in that too, you make yourself vulnerable. You leave yourself susceptible to pain because a lot of people do not appreciate that. They're actually, it's probably too much for some people. Sometimes they'll push you away and say, "Listen, man, just stop." But I would say that for me is where I can really work on myself. Just kind of finding that fine point to where I can help somebody out, but to a point where it doesn't go beyond what they're ready for.
Yeah, it shouldn't put you in a place where it's gonna affect you too much. Or would you say you're a very empathetic person?
Yeah.
Yeah, you take on other people's emotions quite easily.
Yeah,
Too.
And that's one of the things. I'm very easily relatable. Like you could throw me in a room with 100 different strangers right now. I'd have 100 different friends and 100 people I could connect with.
Yeah.
Because I can level with anybody. Because I have empathy and two, I listen.
Yeah, empathy and listening, and it's also why you do a lot of what you do. With not only coaching people, but being a firefighter, paramedic, and you're in that industry of service. So I feel like being empathetic allows you to do what you do. So it's actually more so a positive for you.
Yeah.
So your curse is somewhat a positive. I would say it benefits you more so than inhibits you, though. Yeah. But I can definitely see how you could be overextending yourself maybe a little bit too much at times, and where you kind of have to create those boundaries.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Jimmy. Well, I've enjoyed getting to interview you.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Getting to know a little bit more details about you, since you never let me ask too many questions.
It's different.
It's different.
It's different being on
He's
the side.
a great listener. He just doesn't like to talk about himself.
Not really.
No. Well, Jimmy, where can our listeners connect with you?
So she has 250,000 followers. I have 650 something. I think I hit 700 the other day. So yes, we're trending upwards. You can find me on. Actually, it's not about me. It's about us now because we got a podcast. So you can find us on SM_podcast, or you go into Instagram and you type in Sheer Madness. That's our new podcast platform that we're starting. You can find me on Facebook, Jimmy Gross. And then if you want to know more about the gym or ways I can help you, if you're on the fence about CrossFit, reach out to me, let me know, or type in Omega CrossFit too.
Awesome. So we're super excited. I hope you guys enjoyed my interview with Jimmy. We did the initial one with me, so getting to know both of your co-hosts. And coming up next time, we're going to interview some pretty amazing people. So be ready for that.
Yeah, you ain't going to want to miss that.
All right. Thank you.